welcome to the CCFR Radio Podcast, your source for news, updates, and stories from the CCFR.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 52 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Rod Giltaga. Thanks for joining me again. It is really red alert time, and we've got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a little bit longer of a podcast this time around. I'm going to come back after the break. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an update, talk about a couple of things that are going on. And then after that break, I will come back with Tracey Wilson and let you know what's going on with the CCFR, her visit to Parliament Hill yesterday. The mandate letter, there's a lot to talk about, and what we're going to do about all this stuff. That's the main thing. And also some discouraging and encouraging words. So all that and more right after this.
Wolverine Supply is your one-stop shop for anything and everything firearms, optics, ammunition, accessories, and archery. Exclusive Canadian distributor for the industry's top-tier brands and manufacturers, with access to some of the most sought-after products in the country. Our online store provides convenient shopping and full access to our entire inventory 24/7. For 30 years, Wolverine Supplies has been an industry leader in the firearms community and continuously strives to provide an unbeatable customer experience. Check us out online at wolverinesupplies.com and to sign up to our newsletter, that's wolverinesupplies.com.
All right, everybody, we're back. Okay, so I've got a really long segment with Tracey Wilson. I think it's about 40 minutes, which I'm going to split into two segments coming up. So I don't want to talk too long because I don't want this thing to be about an hour long. So I'm going to go as quickly as I can. I've got a couple of things I want to let you know before we get into that thing with Tracey. So number one, here I'm flipping my papers as quickly as I can. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is Mark Petroni. So you guys may have heard me on the Mark Petroni show. So this is on Saga 960. So that's AM. That's a radio station in Mississauga, Ontario, right in the belly of the beast, right? So I've got this guy that I was acquainted with years ago. His name's Mark Petroni. He used to actually work for the CRTC, worked for, I think, Global and Bell Media, and he's been around for a long time in mainstream media, and he's got a talk show on Saga 960, and you can stream that and find them on the internet if you don't live in that area. But basically, he's a guy that's absolutely sick and tired of mainstream media being influenced by the government, which, as we know, the government has issued, almost 2/3 of $1 billion to filter down to mainstream media to keep failing outlets like the Toronto Star going, and to make sure that if they do fund them to keep them going, that they toe the company line. So if you're not aware, I'll give you an example. Like the Toronto Star itself is their stock price. They're publicly traded. It's in free fall. It's less than a penny, which is when your share price is less than a penny, they'll delist you. You're done. You don't get to trade publicly anymore. So I don't know. I don't know what that means for the Toronto Star, whether they're going to be gone, but they are now relying almost entirely on the $115,000 a week that the Canadian government is giving them. So if they weren't an absolute, rag of a publication in the first place, some propaganda outlet, they absolutely are now, because you can't get that money unless you qualify to be a trusted source, meaning that you're towing the Liberal Party line. So, it's funny because I don't want to get off topic, but this stuff is fascinating. I mean, people talk about Russian collusion. Holy crap, man. If Vladimir Putin wants to know how to propagandize, he need only come to Canada and sit down with Justin Trudeau for 2 hours, because Justin Trudeau can show him exactly how it's done. Like, it's in your face. I don't know why people don't talk about this more. It's just terrifying. So anyway, so Mark, being a part of the mainstream media for his entire career, is tired of it, and he's got a radio show, and it's pretty edgy. So anyway, Mark had gotten a hold of me, a couple of months ago, and started having me on the show, and now I'm on there quite a bit. So the reason I bring it up is he's going to have me on the show this coming Thursday, and I've asked him to keep me on the show a little bit longer and take calls from anti-gun people and they can challenge me directly. So it's funny because anti-gun people are all the time. They're like, oh, we have all the evidence. It's conclusive. It's overwhelming. I love it if Najma called in and then just destroyed me, because apparently I have no argument. So it should be pretty easy to make me look like a monkey, right? Apparently I'm wrong. So that shouldn't be difficult to demonstrate. So I challenge any of the anti-gun trolls out there to just come on and make me look stupid. I will answer any question that they have at any time. So I think it's going to happen at 9 a.m. Eastern time this coming Thursday. But more to come. I'll make sure that I've got that time directly. But check back with, I won't have a podcast out by then, but check back on Twitter or on Facebook or on my personal wall. I will send that information out so that everybody can be there to listen. But if you want to check out the Mark Petroni show, I would encourage you to do that. He's earned it. So Saga 960, if you search for them on Google, you'll find how to stream that show. It's pretty cool. Anyways, so look forward to that. Now, recently I made a video, as you guys may or may not know. It really, really caught fire. I think it's been viewed 40,000 times between YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, but it's just, the Twitter thing is just links, right? And you know what, I'm going to tell you this. A lot of people sent us money. In the video, I did not ask for money. I just wanted to let you know what the CCFR was going to do about this horrible situation we find ourselves in. So for those people that sent money, I really appreciate it. That's awesome. I will tell you this, though. I will ask you for support, and I will ask you for money probably in the middle of January or anywhere from there to the middle of February, because our biggest project that we've ever done, that any gun group has ever done in the history of Canada, is coming probably at the end of February. And I will reveal what that project is at some point between, the end of February, maybe coming all the way back to maybe the end of January, maybe earlier. We'll see. But it's enormous, and I will need everyone's help for that. I'm serious, just to do that project. So that news is coming soon. I just don't want it to get undermined, and that's the only reason I'm not sharing it with you. But rest assured, I've got a team. It's looking like we're going to hire our 5th employee to help out with that project, maybe next week as well. So I'm not fooling around. We're not taking any of this stuff lying down. We're going to do something about it. So anyway, so in that video, I just want to highlight one thing before I take a break and then move on to Tracey. Was I found, oddly enough, a rare positive discussion on CGN. And I was told there was a thread going on about the video and whatnot. So I went on there. I'm like, I don't know, because it's always a bad place to go, because you have a handful of trolls that go there and they blow up every thread, and it's negative, and there's insults, and there's name calling, and there's division. I swear these people are paid. And not by the gun lobby, just to sow division. But nonetheless, I went in there and it was a pretty positive discussion. And there's a little moral to this story. It's kind of interesting. So I've got a handful of haters on CGN, and they hate me with a passion, like it's almost an obsessive passion, like anti-gunners, right? And they hate the CCFR with this obsession it's hard to measure. And some of that stuff comes from radical tribalism, right? It's like, well, I'm part of this tribe, and if I ever admit that anybody else is doing something good or they're putting effort in, then I'm betraying my tribe, and that makes me a traitor. And hey, all traitors should be sentenced to death. That's the kind of absolutist, purist approach that some people in our community have, and it's really damaging, right? Nonetheless, I've got this notorious hater, one of my top 3. That always jumps in and starts blowing stuff up. Although I will credit him, and I'm going to tell you who it is too, but I will credit him that recently, he started to be a little bit more reasonable, but not all the way. So anyway, this guy's handle on CGN, and yes, I'm going to mention you, Steve BC. Yeah, now you've got a claim to fame here on the CCFR radio podcast. So he's a big NFA guy. And he's been just verbally abusing me forever. I don't see the overwhelming majority of what he does, but back in the days when I was actually involved with the NFA, he didn't like me from the start, and that's okay, because not everybody's going to like you. And as my old boss, one of my first bosses when I got into sales and business development, he said, you know what? Not everybody's ever going to like you, but 95% of the people have to like you. So you'll never please everybody, but you need to please almost everybody. So I took that to heart, and I understand how that dynamic works. So here's the interesting thing. He came on there, And in his usual style, he always throws a couple of insults in there. He can't just say, hey, it's my opinion. My opinion differs from yours. And here's where I think we disagree or whatever. It's always got to be an insult. So he was talking about protests, and he said, protests don't work because everybody wants to protest because they want to do something. And I don't want to digress too much, but I'm going to have something for everybody to do soon. Everybody can participate in this. So it's coming both in the segment with Tracey, but also in the big project in the early part of next year. So just keep that in the back of your head. Everyone will have a chance to put their feet on the street, but it's not a protest. So that's coming. So anyway, everybody asks about protests because they want to do something. And I get that. I understand it too. I'm frustrated too. And Steve agreed, I guess not agreed with me per se, but he was of the opinion that protests were useless. And he says, obviously you don't learn by history, so you got to throw an insult in there as a poor communicator, but he's right. And he said, the Fed Up rallies 1 and 2, which were huge back in the day, and this was long before I was ever even a gun owner or even thought about owning guns, right? This is long before my time. They were huge rallies and they did nothing. Everybody got their firearms banned anyway, and he's right? So it just kind of highlighted something to me, and this is the point, is that Steve BC and me probably agree on 95% of the things. If Steve could quell his anger for a few minutes and we could sit down and we could have a beer together or a coffee or whatever and just talk about, what do you think about magazine size restrictions? What do you think about, ATTs? What do you think about what do you think about firearm classification? We would agree on 95% of everything. And we probably disagree on 5% about how things should go. And you know what? In our community right now, that 5% is a deal breaker. And that's what's got to stop. And, I can't help but wonder about these guys, we'll call them the 5%ers just for a handle for now, what they're thinking or what they're how they're motivated or how they're maybe even incentivized. It creates such a rift in our community because a lot of people that are susceptible to that kind of thinking are going to be like, yeah, if you don't agree 100%, obviously you're a traitor and you should be hanged. Like, this is the ideology that I'm having to deal with all the time, right? We're trying to, at the CCFR, we're going to have 5 people pretty soon, right? We have 4 today, and we're growing too. By the way, the amount of help that we're getting from the community is exponentially growing. It's fantastic, and we're putting all that money back into doing everything we possibly can to stop this. Gun control is going to change our lives. I'm not going to say it's going to destroy it because I don't want to be hyperbolic, but our lives will never be the same, and Canadian culture will never be the same. So it needs to be resisted, and you need to work every single stinking day, and that's what we're doing. But there's an element in our community that is opposing us and trying to undermine us just because we don't agree 100%, but we agree 95%. So anyway, it's kind of an interesting thing, and it's almost like I'm holding out this olive branch yet again by saying, hey, you guys, we don't agree 100%, but we agree 95%. Let's focus on what we agree on, for God's sakes, and not what we don't agree on. It's doing nothing productive. And you know what? I'm gonna give you guys a quote, a perfect example. So a while back, we got into a legal action with another group, and the leader of that group during that time said some horrible things. In fact, and I'm going to paraphrase because I do have it somewhere, I just couldn't dig it up right this second. But this individual, who will remain nameless, got into a conversation online, and this person screen capped it and posted it, and it did come from his account because I verified it. And basically, this the person that was talking to this leader of a firearm organization, who will remain nameless, says, why are you fighting the CCFR? And he says, we fight all our enemies. And he says, are you saying that the CCFR is your enemy? And his answer was, absolutely. So that's a problem, right? Now, it's not a problem for the CCFR because I just don't care, right? We have a plan. We're executing it. We are fighting this thing. If we got to fight it alone, we're fighting it. Because the alternative is, and we've reached out to all these organizations, and they keep saying that we haven't. It's ridiculous. But anyway, lying also is not something that's unique to anti-gunners, right? So, anyways, the conversation goes on, and basically, why this organization has us described in their group. They have their forum rules on Facebook in their closed group, and Rule 13 is that no posts will be tolerated from fake groups like the CCFR, right? the infamous Rule 13 over in their group. Anyway, it's ridiculous. So one of the guys in the group says, why do you describe the CCFR as a fake group in Rule 13? And another guy jumps in, not the leader of this group, says, because the CCFR is like a money-grabbing union that's lazy and does nothing to help at all. I'm getting over that cold, so that's not good stuff. So anyway, the leader jumps in. He says, it takes credit for the work of others, apparently. I've yet to see an example of that, and causes damage to benefit egos. It has no track record of anything except supporting gun control measures. Wow. And then the other guy says, well said, Mr. X, right? I'll call him from now. And then he goes on to say, it's not a matter of debate, it's verifiable fact. And then his buddy jumps in and says, and proud of it, CCFR is a joke. So, and also says, you swear it was, I think this guy might be French because his English is poor or he just doesn't take the time to type, but he says, you swear it was run by Trudeau. So, this is the kind of stuff in our community that is tearing us apart and holding us apart. But anyway, I found that there's been a noticeable change on CGN, which is great, right? CGN, like I said, there's a lot of people there and that we've got a lot to gain by uniting gun owners and everybody pushing forward together because, like I said, we agree on 95% of the stuff. One thing that leftists agree on, anything goes for these people. They'll agree to anything. If you're like, yeah, you know what, sex with dogs should not be illegal. They're like, all of them are like, yep, absolutely. Everybody should be free to have sex with dogs. That's how they work. And us, supposed to be the moral, conservative voices out there and for freedom as well. We should be unified. And if we agree on 95% of the stuff and it makes sense, that's what we should focus on, not the 5% that we disagree. So I can't tell you that me by myself sending this message out is going to change our community. But I think that if all you guys out there that are listening to this, take that to heart and in your discussions with other gun owners, maybe take the same message. Let's focus on what we agree on. Let's get together, because I'll tell you this, I've never seen anything like what's happening right now. Ever since the Liberals got elected, it's gotten progressively worse. C-71 is bad, and it enables a lot of the bad stuff that's coming, but they didn't take our guns at that point. But they're all going by OIC and then by legislation. I'm going to talk more about that with Tracey when she comes on. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that we need to unite our community. We need to talk people that are these absolutists out of their, it's almost like talking to cult members in our own community. Just get out of it, man. You don't have to donate to the CCFR. You don't have to run around with the CCFR patch on. I don't care if you do that. Just get on side and oppose this legislation. So when e-petitions come out, sign them, share them in your group, even if you're not in the CCF, even if your group isn't the CCFR. If there's a letter writing campaign, get your group to participate in it. And I'm talking about your gun clubs too. If the CCFR comes out with a story that says, hey, here's an e-petition, we want to do that. I don't care if you're insured by the NFA or the CSSA or a wildlife foundation. Tell your club, hey, share this link. We need everybody writing letters. We need everybody showing up to support even the big, call it partisan if you want. But when we get that big project going, I want everybody to support it. Not because the CCFR is doing it, because we need to do something big. Okay. So anyway, I don't know what else I can say to convince people to get active and to take their own destiny in their own hands and stop the infighting and get out and make a difference. Because via OIC, these guys are going to prohibit hundreds of rifles. That's my prediction. Hundreds of them. Not just the AR-15, not just the Mini 14, hundreds of them. And then using OIC to hold that in place, meaning they're instantly illegal, instantly banned with an amnesty. You can't walk out, you can't buy new ones, you can't nothing. Can't walk out of them with from your house without facing 3-year mandatory minimum in prison. While they're stuck in your house, that's when the legislation's going to come through. This is what I think is happening. So I hope I'm happy to be wrong. So anyway, a lot's at stake. So I'm hoping that you'll maybe I'm changing your mind a little bit, and reach out to your fellow gun owners, reach out to your fellow gun orgs, reach out to your gun club, spread the links, take responsibility for your own future. This is the biggest threat we've ever faced. So anyway, not trying to depress you, but I do want to get you motivated. Okay, I just want to mention that. And I also want to thank everybody on Reddit. We're doing quite well on Reddit, and we're getting people involved there. So I really appreciate all the guys out there. I appreciate people on Twitter and on Facebook. The social media footprint that we have is really big, and that's really a benefit to everybody. And yeah, anyway, spread the word and get as many people involved as you possibly can. So I'm going to hang it up. I talked far too long as it is. So anyway, when I come back, I'll have Tracey Wilson and a lot more on the way.
Once you lose rights, it's nearly impossible to get them back. Right now, there are politicians and bureaucrats working day and night to eliminate your ability to own and use firearms in Canada. They're talking about not allowing you to keep your firearms at home and even taking away the ones you already have. It's not a joke. It's not an exaggeration. Activism is a lot of work, and most people don't have the time. But something that you can do is support the CCFR. For $40 a year, you can be a part of the hardest working firearm organization in Canada and get $5 million worth of insurance. The CCFR lobbies government and works to improve the public image of gun owners through media and educational campaigns. Protect your own ability to own and use firearms before it's too late. Go to firearmrights.ca and click Why Join. That's firearmrights.ca.
All right, on Skype, I've got Tracey Wilson. How's it going, Tracey?
Well, I've seen better days, but, the road ahead is going to be bumpy. But here I am.
Well, we're going to get right into talking all about that. So the first couple of things I want to talk about is the mandate letter came out for Bill Blair, and also you had a visit to the Hill yesterday. So let's talk about the mandate letter. And, let me set this up with reading just a couple of passages for anyone that hasn't read it yet. And these are passages of note. So the first passages that I want to read are going to have to do with just the ridiculousness. You'll know exactly what I mean if you are familiar with Bill Blair and how he operates, and Justin Trudeau and how he operates, and contrast that to what we see in this letter. So he says in the mandate letter to Bill Blair, he says, "I also expect us to continue to raise the bar on openness, effectiveness, and transparency in government. This means a government that's open by default. It also means humility and continuing to acknowledge mistakes when we make them. Canadians don't expect us to be perfect, do not expect us to be perfect. They expect us to be diligent, honest, open, and sincere in our efforts to serve the public interest." He also goes on to say, "It's your responsibility to substantively engage with Canadians, civil society, and stakeholders. You must be," and I'm not paraphrasing, but I'm just reading select clips right here. So just to be completely open and transparent, "You must be proactive in ensuring that a broad array of voices provides you with advice in both official languages from every region of the country." So I'm not going to say I've never read such tripe, such ridiculousness, but hey, you know what? Actually, you know what? I'm going to reel back what I was right about to say. I was about to say, but I'll tell you, why not take them at their word for now? But it's like, you know what? I think I've said that a few times after 2015. So, and we were, terribly wrong. But anyway, before I go on to the firearm related stuff, all that says to me that we should make an appointment to see Bill Blair.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll see if he'll meet with us. And then what we'll do is we'll write him an official letter and send it to his staff and say, we are requesting an official meeting with Bill Blair as stakeholders. And here's, we're confident that we will be granted that meeting based on these passages of his mandate letter. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think it's a good time to sit down with Bill again. I know often when we find ourselves across the table from Bill, it's a very spirited conversation. And
spirited. You're such a diplomat. I would say it's rife with lying. But anyway,
Correct.
yeah.
That's correct. And so is this mandate letter, in fact. Yeah, this is I I also want to point out here for, all the ladies who are out there, who are firearms owners, sport shooters, hunters. It says here that he will apply a gender-based analysis plus. So that's like the super duper gender-based analysis, as compared to the regular gender-based analysis in the decisions that he makes. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some sort of amnesty, or exclusion of women who own these firearms. Maybe they're just taking them from you angry men. Like, this is it's gobbledygook. That's what this is. It's just word salad that makes no sense. That's almost congratulatory, like they're patting themselves on the back for how they will suddenly become transparent and open and honest. And we all know full well that they've been anything but since they've been in power.
They're the least honest government we've had in decades and decades.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever. And yeah, well, with the obviously we're not on a podcast to talk about economics, but the single largest job loss since the Great Depression, I think, was last month. So 71,000 jobs, full-time jobs, or something like that. So it's their word salad approach to government is starting to show, and the cracks are starting to show. But anyway, back to the gun stuff. So basically, Trudeau goes on to say, I will expect you to work with your colleagues and through established legislative, regulatory, and cabinet processes to deliver on your top priorities. In particular, and this means all of us, with support from the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General of Canada, and the Attorney General of Canada, implement our firearms policy commitments, including to amend Canada's firearm laws to ban all military-style assault rifles. And when they say all, they mean all, by the way, but we'll get into that, with an associated buyback program and 2-year amnesty. Work with the provinces and territories to give municipalities the ability to further restrict or ban handguns. Completely ridiculous. Update firearms license requirements for ammunition imports. Strengthen safe storage laws. Develop a mechanism for suspending licenses for those who pose a danger to themselves or others. Continue to build a national system that allows for the flagging of bulk purchases of firearms. We won't be able to buy firearms under their regime, so don't worry about that. Impose stronger penalties for gun smuggling, provide the Canadian Border Services, CBSA, and the RCMP with additional resources to detect and stop gun smuggling, whatever, and work to limit by regulation the glorification of violence in firearms marketing and sales. And last, continue to protect the rights of hunters and farmers. There will not be a return of the long gun registry. Let's talk about that part first. What's your opinion of that part?
Okay, so that part, in my mind, is it is an intentional way to keep our community divided. It is no secret to you or I or anybody listening to this podcast that there's been a struggle over the last few decades, last few generations, in fact, to unite both hunters and sport shooters. Hunters often think that they're not affected by legislation because their guns are safe. They're just bolt action or lever action. They may not be semi-automatics. And oftentimes they'll go as far as to blame sport shooters with their scary black rifles for drawing the attention of the government, right? So that right there, that line, continue to protect the rights of hunters and farmers, shows that they have absolutely no intention of respecting sport shooters in any way. And not only that, they're going to recruit the hunters and farmers to help them support, to help garner support for these kinds of measures by creating that intentional divide. And I have to tell you, I think when the list comes out of what they're banning, we know full well the AR-15 is on that list. He's said it flat out. That is a restricted rifle that is already, you can only use it at the range. You can't use it anywhere else. However, all of the other firearms that he's been talking about, the Mini 14 he's mentioned, among other ones, those are non-restricted firearms. Ranchers use them, hunters use them. So I think it's sort of it's disingenuous, because as far as I'm concerned, other than the AR-15, which we know for sure will be on this list of doom. The rest of them could fully well be used for hunting and ranching and farming. So it's interesting. I don't consider this what assault rifle, whatever the hell that means. I don't consider it an assault rifle ban. This is absolutely a hunting rifle ban. It's a hunting gun ban. So I think yeah, I mean, I anxiously await the official list as well, but I think it's going to be worse than we imagined it would be.
So a couple of things. Number one is, yes, he's trying to divide our community. Yes, the overwhelming majority of hunters aren't involved whatsoever in advocacy, which, you know, it's to our detriment. But I'll tell you this, and I've said this before, and I don't mean to be vindictive, but if we don't have a lot of people standing up fast, and we end up losing our guns, and it's going to go a lot farther than anybody thinks, and it's going to be, by the time that list comes out, it's going to be too late. I'm not going to listen to the cries of hunters. We're like, wow, we never thought. It's like, well, yeah, whatever. You had all the chance in the world. So if you're a hunter and you haven't been really involved, and maybe this is the first time you're hearing this message or this podcast, I'm telling you, you're going to lose your stuff, and you're going to have nobody to blame but yourself. The black gun people and the handgun owners were the tip of the spear. We're the ones doing all the fighting. But believe me, when we're gone, you're next. So anyway, I don't want to put too fine of a point on it, but that's the way it is. Now, real quick, I think we should talk about the OIC versus legislation thing. Now, Bill Blair, we were speculating a little bit on his use of the term OIC. I'll just mention this real fast. But now he said flat out that there will be OIC in legislation. And he's also said that he doesn't want to provide a shopping list for people by revealing the list too early. So I will tell you how this will go down. And I could be wrong. But what's going to happen is, at some point in the very near future, there's going to be an announcement from the Liberal Party of Canada, from Bill Blair. And he's going to say, today we're pleased to have entered this OIC, Order in Council, to ban the following firearms. And then there'll be a list of probably, I don't know, if they're going to take all semi-autos, they'll probably do shotguns too, because why would you leave semi-auto shotguns? So, and that's your Remington Versa Max as well, right? It's everything. I don't care if there's real tree camo on it, it's going to go, because they're not fooling around this time. So it'll be probably 100 rifles and shotguns. And what they're going to do is they're going to make them immediately banned. So you will not have time to react. They will be banned immediately. And then you'll have your 2-year amnesty while they figure out what they're going to do or how they're going to buy them back. And they will, in turn, shortly after that, introduce legislation. Now, what that means is that you'll have, well, as I said, you'll have zero time to react. That's it. Your guns are banned. You can't take them out of the house. You can't do anything. You can't sell them. You can't buy more. You can't get rid of them. You can't transport them. Even if you thought, oh, I'm going to go bury these things. Well, you get pulled over with these things in the vehicle. Boom, you're going to jail. So, so that's one thing we should actually mention. So that I think that's the way it's going to happen. I got no real information on that. And that's the way it's going to go down. So you're not going to have a choice. So we have to fight this immediately. And, when he mentioned those 3 things, that's the only plan that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you, because the idea here will be, I mean, he knows full well when they talked about banning the AR-15, I did the video, tell them Bill sent you, and the Bill sent me campaign sold, I don't know, I think it was 22 or 25,000 AR-15s in a matter of 8 days. So he doesn't want that to happen again. So what will happen with that OIC is it'll be like an immediate stop action. So you're right, you won't be able to move that rifle or shotgun. You won't be able to do anything with it. And then that buys them the time to figure out how to get it out of your hands, right? So yeah, this is it's a really big overreach too. OICs are traditionally not used for things such as this, and to do so sort of circumvents the entire parliamentary process. It circumvents democracy. It circumvents all the other members of parliament who are there to represent their constituents and the concerns of those constituents. And instead, it's very authoritarian, and I think that I think that this is a really really big mistake. I really
Well,
do.
yeah, it is. It's a huge mistake. And we'll talk about the reasons for that because there's a kind of a multi-dimensional aspect of this, why it's bad. But all that to say, you also went to the Hill. I don't know if you can talk about much about that. You were on the Hill yesterday.
Yeah, so I wanted to engage in some lobby activities before they rise today for Christmas break. So the House will rise today and will not sit again until the 27th of January. So it was important to me just in that short window of time that they are here in Ottawa to get in and speak to some of the opposition team and, kind of war room a little bit on what we can do, what this looks like, what does it really mean. I count on their expertise and they also want feedback from us as well. I'm not going to talk about who I sat with, but it was a considerable amount of people. Um, and it was everybody's everybody's feeling really upset about the fact that an OIC is being used rather than the regular legislative tools that are available to the government in a situation like this, which would be more appropriate to be used. So, it's difficult. Everyone says, well, will the other party support it? And I think they're missing the point entirely. With an OIC, you're not looking for support, nor do you need it. You don't need anyone's permission or votes to do it. It's like an executive order. And, it circumvents all those processes that are put in place for proper debate in the House of Commons. So, yeah, this is there's some stuff coming up. There's some stuff we're going to do. Um,
Well, we'll talk about. We're going to take a break in a second, and we'll talk about that after the break.
okay.
So let's save that. But what does this really mean to people? And you and I talked obviously before this, and I woke up yesterday morning. As soon as I wake up, I start thinking about our projects and the things we got to do and whatever, and that's not comfortable. But kind of burdened with that nonstop. And then this morning I woke up and all my mind went to was the ramifications for when this happens. So if this happens right out of the gate at the end of January when they come back and the House sits again, this is what it means, and this is what it means to me too. At that point, when that OIC is filed, I will never again from that point be able to take my rifle, my AR-15, or any other rifle that I may or may not have to the range and set up my steel targets and run around and shoot them and use my sling and have my gear on and just be able to train myself so that I have the skills that I want to have and that I do what I really enjoy doing. And we'll never ever again in for as long as Canada exists as a country be able to do that, to go out to the bush and set your targets up and move around and just have some fun instead of just standing there shooting a bolt action at a gun range. And that will be something that you'll tell your grandkids about that you used to be able to do in Canada before the Liberal Party of Canada and Trudeau and Bill Blair. And it's actually a kind of a hard thing. You and I were talking about it.
Yeah, I know I'm struggling a lot with it. I had a conversation with Colin this morning too, and he's struggling thinking about how invasive this is. How we're not young people. We've been doing this for decades and decades, and I feel like I feel like I don't know what we will do after that. So it's just not acceptable to me. I know I love on a Saturday afternoon try and, escape from work a little bit, grab the kids and a little cooler with some picnic in it. We go to the range, we have some fun, we challenge each other. It's just fun, friendly competition, a chance for my kids to do something really, really neat with their mom and their grandma. And I just, yeah, I can't imagine what this new Canada is going to be like. It may sound hyperbolic to people who aren't gun owners, but I don't do anything else other than guns. I just do guns. So it's yeah, it's very stark.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
worried how it's
life-changing.
going to be. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It
it's
is life
life-changing.
changing. Hmm.
Anyway, on that positive note, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what the CCFR is going to do about it. So stay with us.
What would you think if you heard the government decided that your rifle or shotgun is now too dangerous to own? What if they told you that you couldn't keep it at your house, that you had to pay to store it at some central storage facility? What if they told you that you had to surrender it for destruction or go to jail? These actions are being discussed in government in Canada right now. Think about this. Have you taken any action whatsoever to prevent this from happening? Well, you can. For $40 a year, you can support the hardest working firearm organization in Canada, the Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights, and get $5 million worth of insurance. The CCFR lobbies government and works to improve the public image of gun owners through media and educational campaigns. Protect your own ability to own and use firearms before it's too late. Go to firearmrights.ca and click Why Join. That's firearmrights.ca.
Okay, we're back. So, yeah, I guess we left off on a pretty somber note, which is the reality of what our lives are going to look like anytime after the end of January, and it could happen anytime. So anyway, the other thing I didn't mention actually is that, the 2/3 of the sports that were covered in this season's the CCFR's Canada Downrange will not exist. 3-gun will not exist. 2-gun will not exist. The guys over at Dynamic Shooting Sports, DSS, they have their own kind of 2-gun competition thing that they involve with 3 ranges here in the Lower Mainland of BC. They will cease to exist. There will be hundreds of thousands of people whose investments and all the effort and sweat and fun and people that they met and good memories all will be gone because the Liberals want to satisfy people in downtown Montreal and downtown Toronto. And they can't prove that any of this really has a demonstrable effect on public safety. And that's the kind of government they are. They're literally an oppressive, horrible regime that just needs to be banished to the dustbin of history. But anyways,
Yeah.
I can't say that with enough veracity. I'm trying not to say it with veracity, actually, but because that's how I feel. Anyway, let's move on and talk about not dwell on what's going on. I mean, we need to acknowledge it, obviously, but what are we going to do about it? So the first thing is we talked about letter writing and making sure that we let these people know that what they're doing is going to have a really negative effect and maybe just kind of, show them exactly what negative effect it's going to have, and also connect it to the fact that they have a national unity problem right now, and this is not going to help it. They were almost unanimously rejected in Western Canada, and I'm not beyond saying, hey, gun owners, go ahead and just move to Western Canada, because I'm so upset about this thing. I don't know what kind of political campaign I would support in the future. That's how unjust this is. But anyways, you can do that. So are you? I think you're planning to get that out on firearmrights.ca.
Yeah, that's right. So I put some thought into it last night, and I want to say, I know people complain. I write letters all the time. I do this all the time. We've tried it. It didn't work. Here's what you have to envision. So first of all, this letter writing campaign that I'm going to be launching today is actually going to be letters, and I'm talking about paper. And there's a reason for that, because there is a visual impact when a minister or a member of parliament comes into their office in the morning and their staff is sitting there and they've got stacks and stacks and stacks of paper sitting there. Is that minister going to sit down, read it, and say, oh, you know what? This guy's totally right. Let's just scrap the whole deal. I'm going to tell Trudeau we're not doing it. Of course not. Of course that isn't going to happen. But there is pressure that needs to be applied to these people. The reason that they are doing the things they are doing is because you've got groups like Police Souvien and the Coalition for Gun Control the spin doctors at Protection from Guns or whatever they're called. You've got these people who are constantly writing in, constantly applying pressure, constantly using every means of communication to hammer these people. And they won't stop until they get everything they want, which is all your guns. So we've got to actually oppose that in the same manner. So the first thing we've got to do, and this is just the first of many projects that we're going to be launching, is we need to write letters. So a lot of people say to me, "Well, I don't know what to write. I don't know how to express myself." Excuse me. And I'm not sure about this. So I've put together a couple, four, in fact, four main points of contention. Like, here are the things that really, the four main points you need to make. And then I've included an example where I combine those four talking points into a very short paragraph. Literally, it's one small paragraph. So you can do this on your computer if you want, in a Word program or whatever. Type it out, sign your name to it, fold that piece of paper, stick it in the envelope. I've got all those instructions there for you. Or you can do even better and handwrite it. But I recognize that time is sometimes an issue. If you wanted, you could write one letter, print it to each individual person, and send it separately. And that's fine too. Emails, it's not going to cut it. Emails are not going to cut it. And, you know, I mean, if there's nothing else you could do, then by all means do one. But there's no greater impact than stacks and stacks of paper sitting on their desks. So I'm going to put out all these instructions today. I think there's three main people we need to focus on, and that's the Prime Minister, the Minister of Public Safety, Bill Blair, and your own member of parliament. So if you don't know who that is, don't worry. I've included a link. You pop in your postal code and it tells you exactly who your member of parliament is. Doesn't matter what party they're with. We want to make sure they get a letter. Now, if you've got lots of time on your hands, of course, writing to people who will, once they form their new public safety committee and things like that, that's great. The more letters you send, fantastic. But I'm going to need every gun owner in Canada to send a minimum of 3 letters, one to the Prime Minister, one to the Minister, Bill Blair, and one to your own member of parliament. So I'm going to be putting this I'm going to be putting these instructions up on our website today. I'll share it around social media, and it will stay there indefinitely. So, if you don't get to it right away, it's important that we do this over the holidays at some point. I would really, really like them to come back on the 27th of January, 2 boxes and boxes and boxes of paper. And what this does is it doesn't stop OICs or legislation, but what it does is it makes them a little less motivated to do it. It puts up some roadblocks and it lets them know that Canadians are really, really upset. So all those instructions will be available to you today. And I've also included an email address if you have any questions, or you just need even further help. Please reach out to us and we'll get somebody to give you a hand. But every single person needs to do this if they do nothing else.
Yeah. Yep, they definitely do.
Yeah.
It's and one of the points in that letter, because we're going to provide you with the points of interest for the minister, is the fact that they did not get a mandate in Western Canada, and they're dividing the country further. So not only is the country strongly divided based on the resource sector, it's also the issue of transfer payments, but they're also dividing the country from the perspective of taking guns from hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, because there's a couple of million licensed gun owners, taking those guns away from all those people that completely rejected the Liberals in the last election, and B, haven't done anything to deserve it. So there's a multitude of reasons that the Liberals are giving Western Canada to separate. So, again, I'm not campaigning for separation, not that I wouldn't, because I would do almost anything to get these people out of my life, because they don't get the message that I don't want them in my life and I'm not hurting anybody. Anyways, the next thing we're doing is there's a petition about to be released.
Yeah, so there's a fellow from Alberta who got his MP, which is Glenn Motz, he's the Deputy Shadow Minister for Public Safeties. Glenn has been a champion for gun owners since he was elected in the last term, and he's absolutely fantastic. So they've got a parliamentary e-petition coming out. I know sometimes there's moaning and groaning about that as well. In fact, even from other organizations. But this is what I'll say about e-petitions. Number one, it's a tangible, like a literal opposition to something. So it's something you can put your name on and say, I agree with these other people who have also put their name on it. And, we don't want this. Here's what we are asking. It's also an official document that's read into the House of Commons. So there's an official record of it, and it requires an official response from the person that they are petitioning, which in most times is the prime minister. So it will require an official response from the government. The other thing it does is it also creates like some buzz, right? It creates some awareness. I can't tell you how many times I travel around and I meet people, gun owners in particular, and some people don't even know what C71 is. They don't know what's going on. They have no idea what we're up against. And unfortunately, that's a problem in our community. So the e-petition will give everyone an opportunity to share it around on their social media feeds, to talk to their friends and family about it, to talk about it at gun shows or events that you're attending, and just help spread the word. We talked about this yesterday up on Parliament Hill about parliamentary e-petitions. I know there's quite a few people I've seen on social media suggesting that they wanted to start one and this guy wanted to start one. And here's my advice as somebody who deals with this stuff all the time. I think it is far more powerful to have one parliamentary e-petition signed by 250,000 Canadians than it is to have, 6 or 8 of them floating around signed by 40,000 people. So I highly recommend that everybody get on board with supporting this one parliamentary e-petition. It's been already approved. It's actually just in translation right now. I've read through it. It's very thorough. It's very well worded. I support it fully. And it's actually quite reasonable because not only is it, pointing out the problems, or the ineffectiveness of these measures that are being suggested by the Liberal government, it's simply asking at the end of it for it to be debated under the proper tools of Parliament, like the legislative process, to go to committee, to be studied by experts, to be, for the government to consult people with expertise in all areas of concern on this topic, and just to follow the standard, democracy, like just to do it the way you're supposed to do it, and so I'm really hoping. I think that's a reasonable request. They're not saying scrap your total plan or resign or, it's not outrageous. It's asking for the proper due process to take place. So that will be circulating. I believe it's called, let me just look here. Sorry, I should have pulled this up ahead of time. But we've got a website for it too, because you get this crazy long parliamentary web link to share, which we can still do, but you'll be able to find it once it goes live. It'll be at www.e2341.ca or .com. So either one will work. So we'll get that up and shared around. It is not a CCFR petition. It is by an individual who got his MP to sponsor it. But of course, the CCFR is more than happy to help promote any advocacy measure that would benefit Canadian gun owners.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Get on board and get everybody you can to sign it. We need that to be signed by over 100,000 people. We need to be the largest, the most signed parliamentary petition in Canadian history. And that's nothing for us to achieve. If we just get together, and I know some other leaders of other groups have said, oh, don't have anything to do with parliamentary petitions because guys will sign that and think that they've done their part and won't do anything else. And I have a lot more faith, at least in our community and in those of us that are politically active in trying to protect our own ability to own and use firearms. I think that there's more effort than that in us, and there better be. So ignore what everybody else says. Go and sign that petition and get everybody you can, anybody that is that qualifies to sign it, get them to sign it. It's and I want to say something about petitions real quick. It's funny because the anti-gun people are like, Canadians unanimously support the banning of whatever, and they unanimously support further gun control. And they point to these polls, these national polls, and it's like, yeah, any idiot can pick up the phone. Oh yeah, sounds good. Boom, you're written in there. But if you look at parliamentary e-petitions, and a couple of other things too, I'm not going to get into them because we're running long, but just look at petitions. I wrote an article in High Capacity Magazine, I think two issues ago, about this. And e-petitions, the firearms community devastates the anti-gun community, devastates them exponentially, is lapping them in the amount of engagement in e-petitions. They can't, the biggest e-petition that the anti-gunners ever had was like 20,000 signatures or something like that. Our biggest one was close to 90,000. Even our small ones are 25,000. They couldn't, and then the majority of them couldn't even get 1,000 signatures. And here's the difference. Here's the distinction. The engagement by people that really, really want, gun control, they can't even be bothered to click a link, okay, and put their email address in there. That's the level of apathy, and also bear in mind that the anti-gun people, they're being funded by somebody, and they had bus benches, they had a sculpture on the front steps of Toronto City Hall, they had
commercials at movie theaters,
movie theater advertising, radio advertising, everything. They can't even get 20,000 people to be bothered to do that. Okay.
Right.
So now I'm getting pissed off again. But anyway, the Liberal Party and these anti-gun liars to even insinuate that Canadians want this more than they're against it is ridiculous. Totally insane.
Totally.
The lying is what really gets me is these people are trying to create national division. They're trying to have this adversarial, hateful community of people. They are not willing to listen to anything. They just want to destroy their adversaries, people that don't live like them, so bad that they're willing to lie and manipulate stuff. And that's what really gets me angry. They're going to wreck everything. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that on there. And of course, I'll take the last one, which is our education campaign's coming online in the first 2 months of next year, hopefully at the end of February. And as I said on Mark Petroni's show, we're going to try to educate our way out of this. So the Canadian public needs to know what's going on with firearm ownership. They need to know that, when somebody says, oh, we're just asking for common sense gun laws, it's like, well, you're implying that there's no common sense gun laws now. We are over-regulated today. And so, again, just bold-faced lies to manipulate, Canadians into supporting this ridiculousness that will actually drive the country apart. And, they don't care. Like, it's wild. There's a really screwy bunch of people. So anyway, that education campaign is coming online the first couple of months. I'm going to be personally asking for everyone's help for that. I'm not asking for your help right now. But I'm going to be asking for everything that you can possibly do to help come next year. Probably the end of January is when I'm going to make that appeal. We'll hold a big contest. We'll unveil what it is we're doing. It's going to be enormous. I think if I can communicate it in a quick enough fashion, everybody will realize how big what we're doing is and support it. Last thing we'll talk about real quick is Andrew Scheer resigned.
Yeah. So funny enough, I was on my way downtown for my lobby activities yesterday, and I got a text message from one of my insiders, and it said just said Scheer resigned. So of course I clicked on the radio, and it was breaking news, and everyone was talking about it. So what does this mean for gun owners? I think here's the thing: whenever you're in a leadership race, the Conservative Party has policies that are more or less ingrained at the policy conventions, and the leader is expected to craft things around that policy that is set by the members. However, you always have to be wary of what we call a red Tory. So red Tory is a very left-leaning conservative, who maybe is fiscally conservative, but really left leaning on a lot of the social justice type issues. So you have to be careful of that, because if you get a red Tory in there leading the only real party that's friendly to our cause and our people, it could put us in a bad position. So as far as Andrew Scheer stepping down, Andrew Scheer was always very supportive of firearms. He had a really tough job to do with the last election. I think he did the best he possibly could, which of course wasn't quite what we needed. And so therefore he's going to step back and let the party regroup and come back even stronger. So I feel good about that. I will, of course, on top of everything else, be following that leadership race very closely, and I will be putting out report cards once again. And just a quick note, not that I'm shilling for the party. However, if you want to have a say in who is going to be the next leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, you do have to be a member. So not a member of the CCFR, which is also equally or more important, but you do have to be a member of the Conservative Party in order to have a vote in their leadership, which makes sense. So
and it's not expensive.
No, I just renewed. It was like $15. So at least you get a say.
And I think you can write 75% of that off on your taxes, so it's actually even less.
Well, yeah, it's minuscule, right? But at least it gives you that voice. And I think, I mean, this is very, very early in the situation, but when the roster of candidates comes out, there is a difference between different types of Conservatives. It is a really big tent. And I think it's imperative for gun owners in particular, because we are so targeted these days. I think it's really important that we ensure that we have a strong leader who's willing to stand up for us and be motivated. So stay tuned for that. But I think it's okay. I think it's time for Andrew to concentrate on his family, continue his duties as a member of Parliament, and I'm thankful for him at least being successful in reducing the power of this Liberal government. So
yeah. Well, that's a good way to put it. But onwards and upwards, we'll see what happens. And regardless, it's going to be a crazy year and a lot of changes. And I don't know, a lot of turmoil, I think.
Yeah, it's very difficult to sleep or eat these days, but we're going to keep at it. And it's exciting. We're going to see.
Well,
prepare for battle.
This is the thing, and I was just going to reiterate that, it's tough when people when they're trying to control your life and they're trying to destroy anything that means anything to you and all the rest of that stuff. And those are all hard words. And I think about it a lot. And as soon as I regain consciousness in the morning, my eyes open and I start thinking about it, and it's not comfortable, but just maybe have a little bit of solace in the fact that we are not going to stop fighting these people with everything we possibly can. Every step of the way, we will make them fight and sweat for every single inch. We will not ever give up, until it's all done. So don't worry. Take that energy and take that concern and turn it into activism, action, and let's fight these people. Let's make it so hard on them they'll think twice about going as far as maybe they plan to now. So anyway, we've been at it for 40 minutes, so we better wrap this up or people will never listen to this podcast again.
Yep. All right. Perfect. And stay tuned for the letter writing call to action this afternoon.
And then at some point in the next few days or next week or so, we should have that petition and make sure that we start signing that like crazy. Those petitions have a very long horizon, I think 4 months or so. Mm-hmm. So you'll have, after Christmas, after the holidays. Yeah, that's right. I said Christmas. But after the holidays, it's you'll have time to really get your people together and get that thing signed and show them that we can organize ourselves. That's the thing that scares them the most. So anyways. All right. Thanks, Tracey, for coming on. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. I'll come back with a quick couple of words, and that'll be it for this episode. So stay tuned, and we'll see you soon. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I really appreciate you listening. I know it was a long one, but there's so much important stuff going on right now that it just you need the information. So Let me look at the calendar here really quick. Is this going to be the last podcast before Christmas? This is going to be the big question. You know what? It probably will be. Maybe I'll do one between Christmas and New Year's, but let me tell you this. If I don't talk to you guys before Christmas, have a great, and yeah, I said Christmas and I'll say that again, the holidays, no matter what you're celebrating, right? But have a good Christmas. Don't be depressed. Don't hyper focus on this stuff when you should do things to advocate to hold on to your firearms. Just do them. Don't get too emotionally invested, but don't get complacent. Be active. Just know that the best thing you can do is do everything you possibly can. And other than that, try to be as content as you can. Be attentive to your families. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm going to have to put in a Herculean effort for me to do that, because even after talking about all this stuff on the podcast, I'm pissed off. I'm frustrated. And now I got to assemble this podcast, upload it, and then go do a bunch of errands for the holidays, and I can't be a jerk and be angry all day. So anyway, stay diligent. Enjoy your holidays. Try not to focus on it, but stay tuned for any updates. I think we're going to get pretty much a reprieve from action till the end of January, till the House comes back. But be prepared when the House comes back for an absolute assault on us, because it's coming. So I will have another podcast at its latest in the first week of January in the new year. And anything that happens between now and then, keep an eye on our Twitter feeds, keep an eye on Facebook, and Reddit, of course. And yeah, do whatever you can when you can. When the new year commences, you're going to hear all about our big project. I appreciate all of your support, and also for hanging in and listening to this ridiculously long podcast. Okay, enjoy your holidays. Thank you all for everything. We will see you in the new year, and take care.
This is another episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.